Welcome back to the Enduring Minds podcast, where we go the distance and break the silence. Part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. If you can please rate, subscribe, review wherever you get your podcast, comment. It all helps us get our stories out to other people that need to hear it. So I am running solo today. Jason is currently traveling, so he has left the reins to me, which is either a scary thing or a good thing. We'll find out today. But I'll just kind of talk about where I'm at right now. I'm heading into my first ultra since my DNF at Tahoe 200 last year, where I tore the ATFL in my ankle. Everybody's heard that story too many times. I won't get into it. So it's been a full year away from ultra racing, just really getting into strength, getting things back to where I want to be. I'm still not 100% there. So this will be a good test coming up June 6th. And this episode is going to come out on June 10th. So when you hear it, I will have already destroyed myself at a 60K Ultra. But enough about me. We are here today. We have our guest, Steven Huffine. He is a husband, father, a former ICU nurse, and an ultra runner who really embodies that raw reality of the everyday athlete. Steven recently stripped the sport down to its absolute barest, most monotonous form, completing 100 miles entirely on a track for his self-produced project, Beat the Bedtime 100, which we will get more into. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the person behind the miles, the balance of fatherhood, the psychological shifts that happen when you transition out of a medical career, and what happens to your internal dialogue when you choose to run in circles for an entire day, which I can fully get behind. So, Steven, welcome to Enduring Minds.
Man, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So appreciate it, Evan.
Yeah, we're gonna get right into it. I know this we've had to do this. This is our second recording. Unfortunately, we lost the first recording, which technology sometimes isn't our best friend. However, you've had this question before, but I decided to change a little bit since you've already had to answer it. So I don't want you to answer it the same way. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask a different one. What is it like to be Steven right now?
Oh man. Honestly, Steven right now is pretty nervous. We're about to have our second baby in next weekend. So excited for that. Just we've already got one that's almost 3 now, and then another one coming on the way. So honestly, a little nervous and kind of coming off a big build of a lot of things. And so yeah, just a lot of kind of self-evaluation going on before we start this next chapter. So excited, definitely excited for what's to come.
I am sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling with a baby on the way, me included. Definitely some nerves involved with that. I know you already have some kids, so it's probably not as well. I'm sure it's probably just the same, but
Yeah, not quite as nervous as we were for the first, but this one's a little different. We're gonna have to have a C-section and some things like that. So some additional kind of complications along the way, but excited. So yeah, it's gonna be next weekend, which is it's crazy. It actually the C-section is scheduled for my birthday as well. So they're gonna have to share a birthday with me growing up. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it'll be good.
yeah, that's man. I try to think back to those times when I was going through all that, and I just think that it was really good for ultra training. Like, I mean, feeling those nerves, the start line, feeling all those feels. I think it's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
now, I'm going to get to the question I was going to ask you at the beginning. I wanted to kind of put you on your toes there for a minute,
Yeah.
just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more. So, who is Steven?
Yeah, so my name's Steven Huffine. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, or technically about 20 minutes north of Nashville in a suburb. I am 32 years old. I started running a couple years ago, about 2-ish years ago, and yeah, we've been married for it'll be just celebrated 9 years. We've got one son, one on the way, and yeah, previous medical experience, worked in the ICU for years, and then now working software. I'm a HIPAA privacy officer for a group, and so that's been fun. And then yeah, got into running, and those that know me, I kind of go all in on hobbies and sports, and so quickly went from like, hey, I did a half marathon to I want to try to run the Leadville 100 and get into ultras and all the different things. And so that's kind of just been a fast-paced journey the last couple of years. And yeah, so run as much as I can and run a lot of dark miles in the mornings before the family wakes up. That's for sure.
Yeah, Dawn Patrol, as we like
That's
to call
right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do I go? So I just want to kind of start with the last time we talked. Listeners obviously aren't going to hear that conversation, but
Sure.
you were heading into Nashville for
Mm,
your going after your Boston qualifier, Nashville marathon.
yeah.
I know it didn't go exactly as planned, and I think
That's one way to put it.
I'm going to start off with tell me one really good thing, and then tell me the rest.
Okay. I would say one really good thing was I was very proud of the build. It was the most like I had a buddy who is a 2:30 marathoner who was like, "Hey, I would love to kind of just coach you, for free for this. I would love to just come alongside you. Like, I think you've got a lot of potential, but let's kind of make this a little more structured than what I've done previously." So I was like, "That sounds great." And so I was really proud of the beer build. I mean, beautiful on a graph. I mean, all the things like got up to 100-mile a week, and just everything was great about it. I truly got so much fitter from that. But that was kind of the good thing of that. And it was funny. You actually had messaged me kind of like right before the race, and you're like, "Hey, stay where your feet are. Like, you need to be in the moment. Don't get too far ahead of yourself along the way." And yeah, so Nashville, man, we through a lot of things now, kind of some reflection along the way. One, like it's definitely not the course to try to go BQ at, but that was why I wanted to try to do it in Nashville, because it's kind of just like it's a local race, like it's something that's special to me. I've done it. This will be my third-ish time, I guess now. So I just really enjoyed that race. But we went into it with honestly probably a little more confidence than we should have had. I think it's great to be humbled along the way. Had this great build, had these huge workouts where it seemed like marathon pace was going to happen for 26 miles. And we got to race day, and I made a lot of mistakes, kind of. But race day, long story short, it was going to be very hot. I was very concerned about just the heat level, and so I went to AI like a lot of people do. I should have just talked more to my circle of friends and my coach, but I went into ChatGPT. I'm like, "Hey, this is what's going on. Should I change anything about nutrition?" And it basically said, "Hey, your sodium is way low compared to what you probably need to be taking in. I suggest you double that," which, anyway, so like I think back on it now, I'm like, gosh, I was so blinded by just accomplishing this goal that I threw all reason out the window, which I think a lot of people do in scenarios in life. And anyway, so I doubled my sodium and all these things, and we get out there on race day, and I knew honestly by like mile 5 or 6 something was terribly wrong. Like I felt terrible, and how it was already like cramping, and I'm like, this has never happened before. I mean, we've been running 100-mile weeks, and we felt great on those days, and it was very hot. It was definitely the hottest day I've ever run on, so I can't blame it all on myself. But the weather wasn't great, and anyway, so my brother-in-law, and until the day I die, I'll have to accept this. But we were both running together. We were both going to try to qualify for Boston, and we get to honestly about 13, and I knew I was never going to come back. My legs were effort level was 10 out of 10, and anyway, so he's like, "Are you good, man?" I'm like, "You got to go, it's like just go." And he had never beaten me in a race before, and I knew that was going to be the day, and so I lost a lot of pride from that. But anyway, so he took off, and it ended up running a 2:54, was phenomenal. So he did qualify for Boston. He will have to run a little bit faster to actually get in because of the cutoffs and everything now, but he crushed it. So he had a fantastic day. And yeah, so basically from 13 on, it was just kind of survival. I honestly just started kind of having a great time with the crowds and high-fiving and just like trying to enjoy the day at that point, because I knew we were cooked. And so yeah, I learned a lot from that. And it was just crazy because that was also like this social media thing the last few months. Like I'm the first to say, like, it's just, I think followers and things like that, I'm still trying to understand what that's like. Like it's such a, I don't know, like I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be this influencer that's like taking his shirt off, that's got an 8-pack and like doing all these things like day in the life stuff. Like I'm just not, I'm, training as I can as a busy dad. And so anyways, there were a lot of people who were very invested in this race. And so I ended up like turning my phone off after I crossed the finish line, because I had like 300 plus texts already waiting for me from the thing. And then I clicked on Instagram, and it was literally hundreds. And I was like, I need to step away for a minute. And so yeah, so we learned a lot from that race. Honestly, it was great to know, like sometimes you get so blinded in just the build up and a goal that you actually just kind of forget the basics. And it's really, I think it set me up for success for these future builds, especially for these ultras of like, hey, it's great to be driven after a goal, but I think you gotta 100%, just like you said, Evan, be like present where your feet are. We all as runners, I feel like, get so far ahead of ourselves of, oh, like this is the goal that I did. And, if we would just think back of like that was something we were, even just a training run, what you did then, like that, you'd be so proud of that, of like how far you've come, and we forget that. And so I think it gave a lot of perspective on things kind of going into that. And then, yeah, we could talk about what happened the next weekend as well after that, if you want to touch base on what I broke some more rules the next weekend. But yeah, that was Nashville in a nutshell. We ended up running I guess it was like a 3:16. It was actually 10 minutes slower than my PR at Nashville the year before. And so the joke was like, hey, I ran 1,300 miles in this training block and I ran 10 minutes slower. So, it didn't go well, but it was a great learning experience. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. How do I unpack that one? Only because there's so many little pieces. I will give you one free tip that I got from my coach that really
Yeah.
helps with cramping if you've taken too much sodium or you haven't taken enough. Is squeeze an entire lemon into 500 mils of water and slam it back,
Okay.
and it kind of resets your sodium potassium pump in your body. It takes a little
Okay.
bit sometimes to recover,
Sure.
but I have used it in the past, and I've had some of my athletes use it, and it works really well. So
Okay.
I'll give you that little free tip right there. It works really well.
And that works for both being hypo and hyper.
I've used it for both, and
Okay.
I don't question it. It's like I don't know. Again, I'm not huge into the science of
Sure.
it.
I'm gonna have to look that up. That's super
I
interesting.
listened to my coach, and I took that. So I'll give you
Yeah.
that little free tip for that one. Um, but to get into, I mean, we're on Enduring Minds, and I really want to get into the mental side of that Nashville race. We
Sure.
can, we can have nutritionists on. You can talk about why the sodium, all these other pieces, but like
Yeah.
mentally, what did it do for you and to you in those moments when you were getting the cramping, having to slow down, having to rethink those goals that you had and just survive?
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important in life in many aspects to being prideful in a lot of ways is that's the fall of man. Whenever you're prideful going into that, that was the most prideful I had been in my running career journey of things, of like, man, like and it was because I felt like I'd done the work. I'd done this textbook thing to on paper everything looked good, but I think in my mind I was still so driven to make that happen. I'd forgotten like where I've come from, and so, like, to have that gratitude coming into it, it was more so like, hey, I'm gonna go crush this, and like there's no other option. And then like I quickly realized like there absolutely are other options. And so I think it was great for ultras specifically because of being able to kind of problem solve on the fly, of realizing like, okay, what did like I immediately, as soon as I started feeling bad, I immediately started going down the checklist of like, what's different today? Like my heart rate is through the roof, even though we're running at paces that we've done a million times. Like I started going through the checklist of all the things, and then I quickly realized I that's the one thing I changed today that I have never not done on a previous runs. And so it was cool to kind of be on the fly. Like I feel like I've done that in some other 100 milers as well. It was like I like to problem solve. And that was cool to kind of to go through that. So I think it helped to give some more clarity of like, okay, what actions can I do to go back from that? Obviously, I need to just drink some lemon water, and maybe we could have bounced back a little more further from that. But I think that it was also multifaceted. I think we could talk more about nutrition. I think that the some of the gels that I switched to at the start of the block and things I think weren't the right fit for me. And so, anyways, mentally, I think it helped a lot with just realizing like, hey, things and races aren't going to go your way, even no matter how prepared you feel like they're going to go. And being able to just like accept what's happening, and like how do we learn from that scenario, and how do we push forward and enjoy that moment right then, because that could have been the last time I ran. Who knows, like I could have gotten injured that day, or things like that. So like that's why I pretty quickly just said like, hey, let's go high five the crowd, and like let's go hang out and go run through the build off the crowd, versus just being like, you know what, it's done and over, what a terrible day. And like there was no need to be that. I was still out running, and we were having a day, whether we want to call it good or bad, but it was a day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I heard two things in there that I want to touch on. The first one being this idea of, have you heard of the idea of attachment theory?
I have not. Tell me.
Okay. So attachment theory is this idea that the tighter you try to hold on to something, so that goal that you had, the further you're going to push it away.
Mm,
And
mm,
it's this idea of if you can get to the point of being okay with either outcome and not holding too tightly to something, you have this way of being able to like receive it rather than like grip it and like hold this like death grip of like I put all of this time in. There's no way that I can't hit this goal, as opposed to, hey, you know what? I'm here. The training is done. Slate is clean. I'm
mhm.
here today. Like I'm here to receive whatever my body and my mind and the process is willing to give me.
Sure.
So that's
That's great. I mean, now that you say it that way, I definitely relate to that. That makes, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. Like I was, yeah, I was
yeah.
so focused on that goal that I definitely pushed it away. You know, and all my friends have said the same thing too. They're like, man, they still don't know what happened.
Yeah.
We still talk about it and joke about it. We joked about it on our run this morning with the guys. So yeah, I don't, that was, but that's such a, yeah, attachment theory for sure. I could see that.
I mean, it's like that cartoon of thinking about that carrot hanging over the person's head, and you're just like chasing this carrot, but you're never going to get the carrot
Mm,
but if you just stopped and like put your hand out, you get the carrot. Like you receive it.
yeah,
It's silly, but it's one of those things that I've thought about a lot. I've had a lot of goals and a lot of things that I've pushed away in that way and held too tightly, and then it didn't come to fruition
yeah,
until I released it, and that was my first 200 miler that I put in the lottery for Divide 200 out here in Canada. If
yeah.
yeah, we'll get more into that. You should come to that race.
Okay.
You, you would love it.
Yeah.
But it was a lottery entry the first year,
Okay.
and I saw the lottery ticking through, and I had this like this built up idea of I want this so bad. And then the lottery finishes with 100 people. My
Yeah.
name didn't get picked. I was so frustrated.
Sure.
This is stupid. Like there wasn't only so many people in there. Why didn't I get it?
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, oh, 20 people decided not to put their deposits down. We're going to run another one. I was like, okay, like, well, okay, maybe I have another shot here.
Sure.
Maybe
Sure.
I'll like calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
20 go through, didn't get in.
Oh, goodness.
And I went, okay, you know what? Time to regroup. You
Yeah.
know what? Wasn't meant for me. Universe is telling me it's not something that I'm ready for.
Yeah.
And I completely went on to something else, shelved it, pushed it away. They come back probably about 3 weeks to a month later and say, we have 4 more spots. And my name gets pulled.
Let's go.
And it's like that's my kind of representation of that attachment theory piece from
Sure.
a contextual piece for me
Yeah.
of how it kind of worked in my favor. Now, again, some people don't believe in the universe and all these other pieces, like
Yeah.
things kind of scheming for your greatest good.
Yeah.
I do. I don't think I used to.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you land on that side of things either.
No, yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it in the past conversation, but definitely, I owe everything that in my life to Jesus, and I would say, especially like that's kind of you talk about the lotteries and things like that. Honestly, this week, I mean, I know you'd put in for Cocodona, and so I had very clearly at the beginning, like when I put my name in the lottery, I was like, Lord, if you want this to be your will, and you want me to run this race, make it happen. If not, like, don't let me get in. And I didn't get a spot, and so it was very clear of like, but I felt I had a lot of peace with that lottery of that. Hey, like if this is meant to be, it's going to happen. If not, then if not, that's kind of like with Leadville in the past. I mean, I was very focused on getting in, but I was pretty clear of like, hey, if it's meant to be, like, let me get into Leadville. I didn't get in through the lottery, and then just like you, Evan, like a couple months later, then Scratch Labs puts on their own lottery, and I put my name in, and I'm the single person picked for a Scratch Labs spot into Leadville. So yeah. So I mean, how are you feeling this week after Cocodona?
You know what? I'm in the same spot. When I was going through the lottery drawing, I was watching it live, and I had
Yeah.
to leave for like the last 100 being drawn. And I asked my wife. I said, "Just message me if I get in." And I came back home. I didn't get in. I didn't get on the wait list. I was like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, man, I
And
thought
that's
for sure I was watching for your name too, and
yeah,
I knew a handful of people that got a spot, but
me
I
too.
mean, I felt after they released the number, only about 2,000, I was kind of like,
Yeah,
okay, this may work out, or at least like we'll get on the wait list, and because and then you didn't even get that, but I mean, I think his name's Cody Poskin. I mean, he got third overall, and he's on the wait list. I mean, like it was crazy that
Mhm.
which I mean, I think he's like top 10, so he'll get to run it, but.
Yeah. I have a feeling I had overheard that they were gonna have some like race director exempt spots to.
I'm sure. Well, and they did say that. I appreciated how transparent they were. I
Yeah.
do think it's funny that like it's an Arizona race and it was like 60 or 70 Arizona runners. Like, I mean, I think there had to be something going on as
Yeah.
far as
I mean,
picking that, but
maybe just the volume. I mean, travel's getting pretty expensive too, and I think
for
that's the
sure.
part that I looked at. I mean, the Canadian exchange rate. I will say that race would have cost me close to $3,000.
Yeah, I mean they definitely priced themselves at a spot to like the ones that entered were pretty serious, I would say. At least like in the realm of how serious can you be for a 200 mile? Like
Yeah.
I think that they at least priced themselves there. But yeah, I did tell Morgan, I told my wife, I said, hey, I feel like I definitely need to tell you if I do get picked for this, it's like 23 or $2,200. She was like, man, I'm like, I know that's it. But I was like, I said that's a problem if we get picked in. Yeah, I'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
I watched live like a lot of people did, and then didn't even get the wait list or either
Yeah.
one, but just
I
part
think
of it. So yeah, it's nice having peace though.
Yeah, I think me as a runner years ago, having went through that 200-mile experience of the lottery and all
Sure.
those other pieces, I really do my best now to not be attached to, like, if I get in, then I will, like, just like you said, I'll figure out what my plan is from there.
Yeah.
But until that point, okay, well, now I'm gonna move to something else that is meant for me, or a different run or a different race, or create something for myself, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And yeah, and speaking of creating something for yourself, I alluded in your intro to the Beat the Bedtime 100. I watched it, the documentary that you put together, which will make sure we get it into the show notes as well too, because it's yeah. Can you just tell people more about what it is first, and then I'm gonna have a few questions for you about it.
Sure. Yeah, so honestly, it's kind of two things, and I'll be fully transparent about this because it was I think the second reason people will probably get a laugh out of. So the concept of Beat the Bedtime, it was very much of I knew we were about to have another son in a couple weeks, kind of building up to it. I was itching to do another 100 miler before we had the baby, and because I have a kind of my A race this October. It's called No Business 100, so I get to run it a second direction this year. And so I'm excited for that, and we'll go into more of it. But I mean, basically, I'm kind of holding that the same way of like I'm excited, I'm in it, but I'm not going out there to be like, hey, I'm about to go win this race. I do think we're going to be prepared for it, and we're going to have a good time. Super excited to run that. I do have two brother-in-laws running No Business with me, so that's going to be cool to see how we all pan out. But yeah, No Business, or sorry, Beat the Bedtime. It was kind of an idea of like, okay, how can I do this logistically without costing a bunch of money? I can be close to home, like not this like multi-day overnight stay thing. And so talked to some buddies. They just finished a brand new track close to our house. And I was like, I think I'm going to go run 100 miles around this track and kind of just let's do a speed, like let's see how fast we can run 100 miles, because like that takes all the unknowns kind of out of it. You have your aid station right there. You can just crank out some mileage. And so we reached out to the kind of athletics team and said, can I run on your track? And they were like, why would you want to do that? But they were very much like, hey, you're more than welcome to do it. So that was cool to get approval from them, and it was great because like the local track team even came out and ran a bunch of loops with me because they were training for state, and so it was cool to have like just the community that showed up for it was wild. But the concept is you put your kid to sleep, you leave, and then you run through the night, and the goal is to run 100 miles to be back for bedtime the next day. And so you would have to run at least a 24-hour 100 miler, roughly 23 by the time you get over to the track and everything. And so that was the goal. And so we went into it like, hey, I'm going to just set a good heart rate cap, and whatever that pace is, I'm not worried necessarily about pacing as long as it's under the threshold of 24 hours, and then just crank out some mileage. And that's what we did. So yeah, you can ask some follow-up stuff about it, but it went very well. It did get very hot through the day, but luckily we had a bunch of ice and was able to do ice bandanas and all of that to stay cool. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying to you if I said I haven't thought about something
Okay.
similar.
Okay.
There's definitely, yeah, we'll get more into that for me, but I want to focus on you for a moment.
Sure.
The thing that people don't truly understand about these loops or backyard ultras, or these like single short distances,
Mhm.
you have the opportunity to quit every single time you come back around.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I don't think people put enough like thought into that, knowing
Yeah.
that you can quit at any time. It's like running on a treadmill. You can just get off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's forcing you to stay on there.
Yeah.
And I think is different to like a point to point race where
Mm.
you're a 200-mile point to point race or 100-mile point to point race.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'll have to sit at an aid station if I want to quit, and I'll be 6 hours before they take me out.
Yeah.
But you're at a track, you can just go home.
I would be lying if I didn't say that I did think about, like, when it was 2 or 3 in the morning before I had caffeine, I'm like, man, I would just honestly, I could go get in my bed right now and just go to sleep. Like, a bunch of my buddies were all sitting in the chairs, like laid out sleeping for a little bit through a section, and I'm like, that looks nice, because I did have to look at them every time I ran around the track.
The mental fortitude it takes to continue going on a looped course
Mm,
is like an exponential learning opportunity
sure.
compared to just doing a long distance ultra.
Yeah.
That's why if you ask a lot of people who run trails or like to be in the mountains,
Hmm.
they will say, I will never run a backyard ultra. I will never do those. Sorry, my dog's coming in and hiding.
That's great.
But they say that they'll never do it. And I honestly think it's because it scares them.
Sure.
I truthfully believe that level of discipline and discomfort and ability to stay in it is what changes people. So for you, from that mental side of things, I mean, the phrase of, this too shall pass, that works for the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And one of my running friends locally here, Jody, it's one of his favorite phrases to use. This too shall pass. Like, I'm feeling great. This too shall pass. Like using it every single time when you're in the race, like
Yeah.
just throwing that out there as many times as you can, knowing
Yeah.
that you have the tools necessary to manage as you go, that problem solving you talk about.
Yeah.
So mentally, what were those ups and downs like as you came around to those aid stations each time, as you finished those laps, 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles?
Sure. Well, it's funny too. I had a lot of people say, like, "Man, how could you run 400 loops like on a single track?" And that to me was funny, because I'm like, the loops didn't even really come across my mind like that. I don't know. I run the same route every day. Like when I'm running, even with our friends, like I just do little deviations off of it and things. But I do like consistency. So like running in a loop didn't bother me. I did switch directions every 10 miles, so that was kind of something fun to look forward to every few hours. But things got, honestly, like, felt great the first, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours or so. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning before I got caffeine for the first. I try not to. You try to delay that as long as possible, so you can kind of get the most effect from it. Because once you start it, you're going to just keep wanting more. And so got through a couple of segments there where, like, it was a couple random people showed up and they were talking a lot, and I was very much of like, man, I'm in a spot that I don't even really want to talk a lot. I kind of just want to run quietly. And so then I'm trying to, like, also not be rude to these people that got up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I didn't know some of the people who came, and so, like, it was like they're trying to, like, learn about me, and I'm trying to, so trying to chit chat at 2 or 3 in the morning when you haven't had caffeine and you're 40 miles in. That took a little bit of just like, hey, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to be quiet for a moment. And so that was that kind of got low through that. But honestly, I think the biggest kind of low point was I kept dreading. I knew how hot it was going to get. And so I was just trying to move as efficiently and quick through the night as possible, because I wanted to get very far, knowing that the minimal if I could run quickly, I wouldn't have a ton of daylight to run in. And so it got up to like 90 plus. It was humid, all the things, and so it was hard not to dread that. But I feel like you do that in every ultra. You kind of think about, like, oh, there's this big climb coming, or I got to worry about nightfall. Or that was something that's also weird, like starting at night versus starting in the morning was completely different than anything I've ever done before, because, like, you're ready to go to bed when you're starting already. I think it's way easier to be running through the day and going into night, just because you're kind of already dialed in and ready to go from that. But honestly, other than that, I mean, it was kind of the dread of the heat and things like that. I was pretty positive most of the race, which was different than like the last 100 I did. It was very technical for being in Tennessee and Kentucky, and it was just, we got into some spots that, like, man, you were just dreading trying to even move forward. Your feet are destroyed. You're, all these different things of like, I know that, hey, I've got a 5,000 foot climb coming up that's going to be at 2 a.m. That it's different than those kind of races, but it was great because I was never alone once during the race. Like I had so many people show up, people that were waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning to come run and things like that. So having the community, that was something that I hadn't really seen that aspect before, of like, hey, I just put out this idea, and I purposely didn't really post about it because I didn't like, as far as like inviting a ton of people to come, because I didn't know what was going to be like. And then just word of mouth, like the incredible people that showed up, it was cool to be a part of that and to never be alone either. Like having even somebody, like a lot of the guys that had run ultras, they would come up and talk to me, and they're like, hey, I know what it's like to do this, so you tell me when you want to talk. Like they were just like, they would just be a moving body with me, and that was cool to just have people like, hey, I'm not going to talk for the next 30 minutes, and like, let's just kind of do some loops together, and then crack jokes from there. But yeah, overall I would say morale was a very high for this ultra compared to other ones. And you talk about like, I was so nervous. Like everybody was talking about Nashville, like my demeanor kind of had changed about running. I was just so focused on like very serious and all of these things. For this, like my buddies were like, dude, you're so happy this week. Like you don't even seem like your normal self. I'm like, that's because I feel like I'm excited for what's coming. Because Nashville, I was very nervous. So yeah, little different going into that race versus how stressful Nashville was.
Yeah, the never alone piece. I think it's such a great symbol of that race versus, again, it's Men's Mental Health Month, and I
Yeah.
think for people to understand that you going through the discomfort of that race and that situation is no different than somebody going through something mentally, physically, whatever that might be for themselves. And I think
Absolutely.
I just want to touch on that point of that never alone piece. Again,
Mhm.
being able to do that with people and having that connection, even though you're running silent. I mean, I'm a very social person when I'm in my run groups and things like that. But if you see me at a race, I'm not very chatty at all. I'm like usually like in the zone, kind of focused, just like there. So you
Yeah.
talking about doing this beat the bedtime and having so much joy attached to it,
Mhm.
like I think it just goes to show that the more joy and the more fun that you can have doing these things, that pressure, that stress, that anxiety, it just dissipates because you have this like release of not having to perform.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That takes us so much pressure off. Like, and I'd even heard too, some other runners talking about, people that listen to music and stuff while you're running. They're like, listening to just like rowdy, rap music or whatever it is that's like hype music. They said honestly, like if you can make music that makes you smile, that's going to do a lot more than just kind of just numbing out your brain with whatever music you want to listen to. And I would agree. I've tried that in some dark spots of ultras before now, and like put some like happy music on. For me, that's listen to worship music and kind of just get in the zone of just like some calming music, and makes you smile about maybe like previous memories or things like that. That's helped a lot in those scenarios versus just turning on some dubstep or whatever it may be that gets you going. I'm not saying there's not a time for that, but it is whenever just like you said, I do tend to get more quiet during ultras as well, and this one was opposite of that. I did talk a lot with our group, which was cool just to have some good laughter along the way.
Yeah, and my quiet is sometimes because I focus on nasal breathing, and in
Okay.
order to nasal breathe and do it properly, you can't be blowing out air out of your mouth all the time by talking. So you
Sure.
kind of have to balance those two things and understand if I want to be efficient, I can't talk. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
You have to tell me more about, so what's your technique? Why do you choose to put so much emphasis on nasal breathing versus mouth breathing as well?
man, that's a whole
That's a whole different
podcast in
discussion.
itself.
We could talk offline about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a breathwork coach too, so that's why
Okay.
it's
Okay.
yeah, it's we'll just say it's about managing the oxygen in your body and
Sure.
creating you to be more efficient to push more oxygen to your extremities.
Okay.
is essentially but yeah, we can definitely chat
I
more
did
about it.
some Wim Hof breathing on Hope Pass back in when we were doing level. I had a buddy that showed me right before I left, and I tried that, and I will say it helped. So I mean, I'm a believer in some breathing treatments,
Yeah.
techniques. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely would be interested in hearing more from you about it.
The training that I do is called the oxygen advantage, and it's essentially the complete opposite of Wim Hof.
Okay.
if I
Yeah. No. I mean, I know nothing about that field, so I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take that one offline, and we'll definitely chat about that one.
Sure.
I do want to pivot. I want to start to dad out a little bit because you
Okay.
and I are both dads. I have two girls, 8 and 11. They actually just had their first track meet this weekend.
That's exciting. Super cool.
They asked to do it. There was no dad pressure.
Okay.
I think that's the big thing for me is like release that pressure on them. I want them. My love
Sure.
is not conditional based on how they do. I just want them to like go out there, have fun, and we went the Friday before to the
I was gonna
track.
say,
Like,
let me ask you about that delay. So now that they had their first track meet, like, do the other kids like, oh yeah, like their dads, that's Evan, like he's an ultra runner. Have you heard that talk?
their friends definitely know me on YouTube. There's no
Okay.
doubt about that. I'm the scary dad who runs far. That's
Okay.
why does your dad not smile when you drops you off? I don't know. We'll see.
I love it.
I don't think of myself that way, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to dad out a little bit. I mean, them going to their track meet and me getting to see them just like show up for themselves and do something that's like hard. Like I had my 11-year-old was running 400 meters. Like she wanted to do all the distances. They only went up to 400 meters for her grade. But still, like, I mean, 11 years old running her first 400 meter, never having done track. That she had only been on the track when I took her on Friday just to like show her around.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't want any pressure to perform in that way. But yeah, as dads, there's this like unspoken expectation to be this like steady anchor who has everything under control. And I know when you designed the Beat the Bedtime 100 yourself, rather than like signing up for an organized race, like what were you hoping to show your kids about, setting your own goals and executing when no one else is really watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very helpful to see that like hard things can be attainable, especially if you kind of take them more, if you strip them down in the moment to be like, okay, 100 miles seems crazy to think about, but if like, hey, we're just going to go do a 10-mile run with some buddies for this hour, and then we're going to do another 10-mile run, with that. So I think it applies well with a lot of things like that they're going to go through in life of, something seems so massive, this school project or things like that. But if you kind of just step back and like, okay, how do we take pieces of this at a time? I used to always kind of get so overwhelmed at the big picture that I would, you get bogged down kind of even just in the narrow stuff. And so I would love for my kids to see that like, hey, anything is kind of achievable. Like it takes time to get whatever goal you're going to, and you got to go out there prepared. But it's also like, everybody, you can, once you get into those things, like you're able to strip it down to more of a digestible level. That's kind of like the saying that like, how do you eat an elephant? 1,000 bites, things like that. So I think that that's something for me. It's taken time to not get bogged down by such a large project or a goal, and to be able to go a little bit more to like, how do you achieve this? Like, let's work through a plan. And so that's what I'm hoping that they will see, that anything can be done. You just got to work towards it. And how do you go about it the most efficient way?
Yeah. I mean, like you have to love them in order for them to have that desire to want to like do for themselves, not for me,
Yeah.
but for
Yeah.
them. But they don't have to win in order to be loved. And I think I've heard that it's like a Phil Jackson Lakers quote, I think is when I heard it.
Yeah.
And I think I know you have a young family. My girls are a little bit older, so you're not quite at the track meets yet. I know
I hope I get to. I wish I would have ran track and cross country going up. So I hope that my son wants to do the same.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I love being able to see them do something that they chose to do, not because I wanted them to, but because I was the example, and
Yeah.
they going, oh, like he is doing those things, like I want to do those things too, not to be a part of it in any way, but for them. And I
Yeah.
think my biggest driver for them is to only be doing these things and choosing these things because they want to, not because they think I want them to.
Yeah.
And that's always that balance and fine line. I mean, I've never had them in team sports. They've done all individual sports like gymnastics and taekwondo they're in, and running and all these things, and swimming. And I want them to be able to choose that next sport and that next thing that they want to do for themselves, because I think it's important to have that agency and autonomy, and not just, dad played soccer for 25 years and okay, or now I'm a soccer player.
Yeah.
I want them to discover it and have that like curiosity and that wonder and that belief that they have that ability to choose for themselves.
For sure. No, and that was like talking through, being proud of like where they're at and things like that. That was a big part of like why I shared the kind of the heartbreak of Nashville. I feel like with those around me, like Morgan and I talked a lot of like, okay, I could easily you can frame things however you want to frame them, but I want it to be vulnerable for people to see like, hey, things don't go well. Like you could go after something scary, a big goal, and if it doesn't work out, like you've got to you can sulk in it and just be sad that didn't happen, or you can learn from it and move on and go to the next thing. And I hope my kids do that as well. Like there's gonna be so many things in life that don't go your way. I mean, it happens outside of running every single day. There's always something like you think it's gonna go one way and it doesn't. And so being able to being willing to just like, hey, it didn't go my way. What did I learn from this? Let's move on from it, and being able to share the good and the bad. Like that's my wife has got a saying, and she says she didn't come up with it. I'm not sure where it came from, but like in life, she always says, grief shared is grief divided, and joy shared is joy multiplied. And so kind of that hits a lot of aspects in life. And so like, we did all these big goals and we shared that among everybody, and that's a part of it. And when there's a good day, we share that with as well, and that's multiplied across those around you. And so that was kind of a lot of our story with Leadville and losing a previous pregnancy and being able to kind of share that story of what that was like. And it definitely helps to, just like you said, with it being Men's Mental Health Month, like sharing that with others, like you can actually divide that grief. It makes it a lot more. I wouldn't necessarily say it's easier, but it's very helpful to have others alongside you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you touch on that grief part, and I think for me, I was listening to a podcast a while ago. I've shared it with a few people, and they've messaged me back immediately after and said like, I'm so glad you sent this to me. It's a psychologist out of the UK called Dr. Lucy Hone.
Okay.
And she talks about grief being the difference between where your life is and where you thought it would be.
Mm.
And it's such a simple way of thinking about it, because again, like having that expectation of, oh, I thought I was going to be a Boston qualifier. And you have that because grief is different for everybody, and nobody's grief is any worse or any better than anybody else's. Like everybody's is individual. Yeah. And I think going through those stages of, again, having that expectation of like, oh, this was going to be my Boston qualifier. And now you're like, okay, I'm going to do this Beat the Bedtime 100. I don't know when I'm going to go back for another marathon to get it.
Yeah.
But like going through that cycle and allowing yourself to go through those cycles and understand that it's okay. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you talked about running with the group that you had on the track, but I know you also have a very tight-knit group of runners that you run with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So why is it so critical for everyday fathers to have that space where they can talk about that exhaustion, failures, mental health without having to perform or like hide how tired they actually are?
Yeah, I think having that community to come around you and running, and I've been a part of several D groups as well, like learn more about the Bible, and I think just having that the shared companionship of like, hey, these people are going through similar things that you are. Like, how do you? It helps to learn a lot of like how do they attack a certain item of like, hey, I've been feeling really burned out about XYZ, and then your friend's like, well, I went through a season of that as well. This is kind of some of the things that I went through to help kind of get out of that, or like being able to build off others that have a similar that have gone through similar seasons. I feel like life is full of seasons of of raising young kids and running marathons and like different seasons of work and all these different things. And so like being able to have those that, that's why I really enjoy hanging out with people that are older than me, because they've been through those seasons of life more, a lot of times. And so they have some wisdom of what happened to them, and like things that they would avoid or things they would do differently. So I think having others around you that, I would always love to be like, I want to be the dumbest person in the room. I want to have everybody that's been through things in life that can, be able to teach more and tell more. But I think there's a part of that as well, to be like, how can you also do that with the younger generation? Like, so the younger kids that are around you as well, like how can you encourage them of whatever they're going through, and being a part of as well. So I think it's both ways. Like, you need to be involved both in younger community and older community of those around you.
Yeah, you talked about the seasons, and I believe in this so deeply about having gone through a lot of the cycles and things myself with raising kids, running, mental health, all of these pieces, and understanding that, as leaves fall, those types of things turns into winter. Like you are the exact same way. Like, you go through these cycles, you may not realize that you're going through them, but
Yeah.
you are. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to have that awareness and step back and go like, you know what, this is my season of bringing a new child into this world. It's not go out and crush a 200 miler over the next few months. Like, no, like my season is I'm going to go out for my early morning runs. I'm going to be there for my family. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do the things that I know that I want to do, not should, because shoulding is like, negative shaming, those types
Of
of things.
course. I
But
got you.
you're doing it because like you created this life, you're
Yep.
building this life with your family, and you want running to be this thing. And I tell my athletes all the time, running has to be complementary to everything else. It
Mm.
can't be everything, because as soon as you make it everything, then other things start falling off.
Yep. Yep.
There's only so much you can do between career, family, hobbies, wealth, whatever it is. Like, you can't be good in all four all the time. That
Yep.
will burn you out. You will be exhausted. So I love hearing somebody else talk about the seasons aspect, because I think it's such a beautiful way to look at life, and not, again, that attachment piece of not holding on too tightly to the way things are and being okay with it shifting as it needs to.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's hard not to be, it's hard sometimes not to be sad to leave a season, and that's okay. That, a season's wrapping up of, we had this crazy build and all these different things and so many exciting things happening in life. But I always try to be, we're forward thinking and running. I like to be forward thinking in my life as well. Of like, man, like I've got an exciting season ahead of minimal sleep and raising a brand new little baby, and like my son's getting older, and so I'm, he's starting to do, he always is running with me outside, and so like there's so many fun things to look forward to as well. And so like, hey, we had a great season here, let's close that chapter, start the next one. And yeah, I don't think crushing 200 the next couple months is on the agenda for no sleep, but it'll be some good no sleep training for the the next ultras that come. But yeah, we've been joking because our first son, he went through like a 4-month regression and like did not sleep at all whenever for just he went whatever happened. And so that 4 months is exactly when my next 100 miler is, like from this baby. And so we're like, man, like, that's going to be brutal if that's what happens again. But and so it's a lot of fun, and it's such a such a short chapter of life of raising young kids. And it's like crazy. I mean, now that my son's almost 3, like I'm like, that was so fast, and so he'll be going to school and doing track meets in no time. And so I'm trying to get better, like you said, being where my feet are, and being present both with my personal life and running and all the things. And so look excited for the next chapter, that's for sure. So seasons are a good thing to look at, whether they're as they change through life is just part of it.
Yeah, I've been there with the sleep regression, by the way. It's again, if anybody really wants to train for an ultra, like borrow a baby going through a sleep regression.
Man, yeah.
Between shift work, I mean, you were a nurse too. It's like, between shift work and raising kids, I feel like the sleep aspect of ultras, the sleep deprivation, I have never hallucinated on any race that I've done.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's like just the way I'm built now because of the years of 20 years of shift work and sleep training with kids, but you know what, I recommend it. I highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
I think that's like I forget his name. I think is it Mike McKnight? He's like the he's kind of known for not sleeping and everything as well. So
Yeah.
he's like, that's just what I guess I was reading a little bit of his story when he was talking about growing up like on maybe a dairy farm or something like that. He's like, I didn't sleep, and so like 200 miles or I'm right at home with
Yeah.
that, which is crazy what they were able to do this year. The fact that Rachel only slept for like 19 minutes, for her to win, and Killian and all them. I mean, that was wild. That was such a fun thing to follow along.
Yeah, it's such a yeah, that sleep deprivation piece is yeah, it can mess with a lot of people. There's no doubt. I
I
have
was gonna say
swept,
it's wild that you didn't have any hallucinations. That's
no,
crazy. I've had some on my 100 miles. Nothing like crazy, but enough to be like, hey, I think those bushes are some animals. Like that happens to me a lot.
yeah, no, not even during speed project with
Wow. Okay.
the 94 hours. I 5 hours of sleep. I'm not sure. I'm just built differently, I guess. I don't know.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, maybe I'm waiting for a really good one. Let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I do want to touch back on just the Beat the Bedtime 100 just one more time.
Yeah.
You could have just done the run and not documented it. I'm not going to guess, but I would imagine it's a very selfish thing that you want to do for yourself and for your kids, and for your family to be able to have this documented. It's what I wanted to do with my run with my dog.
Yeah.
It's blown up. I didn't expect it to, but it was a very internally selfish thing. Is like I want to document this.
Yeah.
So in saying that, when your kids look back at that video of you grinding those laps on the track years from now,
Mhm.
what is that like quiet truth that you hope that they understand about you as their dad during this season of life?
I just want them to see that I was a present dad, like that I did change, I chased some fun goals, whatever they may be, but that like, hey, my dad was willing to like, he wanted to go do this crazy adventure, and like he did it while I slept. I don't want them to think like, yeah, my dad was never around because he was always running. Like I want them to be like, you already done running this morning, dad? Like every time I wake my son, get my son out of bed, he's like, how was your run? Like that's what he says now. And like, daddy was running. And so I just want them more than anything to see that, like, sure, I did some fun things in running or whatever it may be, but that I was present and that they were my priority. And so and I wanted that to be for other dads as well. That I have several friends that that I have some that are fantastic at being very present with their kids, and I have some that I feel like they could improve to be more present with their kids. And I would love for them to be like, hey, you can have both. Like you can actually chase some big goals that are, as being a dad, but it does take sacrifice of like, getting up super early and not running out, whatever that looks like. Everybody's different. It may work best for you to run after work. Like that doesn't involve, family time. But for us, like running before the kids wake up and the family wakes up, that just seems to work. And so just like things of, I want them to know that their dad was present, and he chased some crazy dreams, whatever that looks like. And, he's a good middle of the pack runner, and we had a good time.
Yeah, I think that presence piece is what I really heard in that, and
Yeah.
it's something that I've struggled with myself in the past, with being able to balance and I hate this word training. For some reason, this word training, I don't love it, because
Okay.
I always see it as this like endpoint, like you're training towards a race and
Yeah.
then it's done. Like that's what I see training as. Whereas I'm trying to build a process now of, the process is all the running and everything I do, the races that
Hmm.
fit into what I'm doing, and maybe I'll change my process of how I'm going to get to that race.
I
But
like
I
that.
really like this idea of not calling it training anymore, because training, I just feel like it has this like connotation to it of like, well, you need to keep going, you need to keep doing this, because if you don't do that, you're going to get to that race, and then the race is going to be done, and then everybody. I was talking to one of my athletes the other day, and she wouldn't mind me sharing it. She said that she usually just drops everything at the end of a race cycle. And I said, well, I need you to flip that on its head. It's no longer about an endpoint. I said, the endpoint is when you come to me and you say, I want to cancel coaching. That's the endpoint.
Mm.
But for right now, you coaching with me, it's not we're going to this race. It's we're building a process around your ability to be able to go and race and be
Yep.
able to do the things that you want your body to be able to do. So what is the bare minimum that we need to do each week in order to satisfy everything else going around in our life, in our season that we're in, to be able to make that happen. Because I've gone through lots of periods where I could only run 2 times this week. I'm okay with that now. Years ago, I wouldn't be, because I would be stuck on this training plan and trying to hit, like, make all my things green on Training Peaks and be like, yeah, I'm the best athlete ever. I'm hitting all this green stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not, yeah, that word training to me, just, I'm getting over it. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a good word, and that's something I needed to hear as well going into this next season. It's not going to look like all my buddies that either don't have kids or married and or still single and things like that. Like they run like crazy and run all the time, and so like I'm not going to get to do that, and I need to be okay with that. Otherwise, I'll have I'll be in a spot to be sorrowful about it and things like that. And so I like the process idea of things of like, these are I'm constantly trying to get more fit, and however I can fit these additional races into it is how it goes.
Yeah. And you're in software. You've heard of the term like minimal viable product.
Oh yeah.
What's the minimum viable process that you need to do each week?
Yep.
Even if it's you get up at 5 a.m. and you only have time for 1 kilometer, that's okay.
Yep. That's okay. Yeah.
You're committing yourself to the process of getting out there and doing it. It's not about how far you're going while you're doing it. It's about showing yourself that you're committed to the process of it.
Yep.
Which,
yeah, that's great. No, that's you could do a whole podcast just on that, man. That's incredible.
I'm glad it resonates with you.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to talk one more thing about the validation piece of doing a project on your own versus a race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it essentially strips away this like need for validation, like this racing, this outcome, the things that we chase in those moments. Taking away that need for validation, doing the Beat the Bedtime 100, like, did it make it more purposeful in your mind? Did it make it harder to justify? How would you kind of lay that out?
Yeah, I would say the opposite. Like it made it more purposeful for me than running a race with others. Like it was cool to like I'm not racing against anybody but myself, and like it was just I don't know, it was so much. It truly was fun. Like I know it sounds crazy. Like it was just a good time. I had zero. I was not even. I can honestly say I was not nervous at all to go do that, and it was such like very refreshing to go into a scenario to be that way, coming off such a stressful, structured training block. Like he was, training it for that one race. It was so nice. Like it was just a breath of fresh air to do that. And it was cool too of like, there's no, there's no like somebody could be like, oh, you ran, 99.75. Like, did you count all 404 whatever? Like, and I'm like, no, I went off my watch and I can tell you it was accurate for the, it was going off a mile every time I went around 4 times. So call it what you want, but, it was cool just to be like, hey, like, talk trash if you want to, like, this was for me. I don't really care if you think that like that time wasn't right or whatever. Like in social media, like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing. People send you DMs and I'm just like, come on, go on somewhere else. But it was cool. It was very, very purposeful of like, it was way easier to get in the right mindset for than other previous races. And it was nice just to not be stressed about it and not to be racing anybody else. And although like, it's one of my favorite parts of races is meeting new people. So it was super cool. Like you're best friends with somebody after you share 5 miles with them on a trail or even a mile. You may be with them for a couple hundred meters and you talk to them then. And like, I still keep up with people that I ran some races with previously. And so that was different about that, but it's cool. Like there was no awards, there was no timing mats, there was no, there's nothing to post other than just like that's what we did. And yeah, the documentary was more so like it was cool to just like capture. I wanted it to be very much of like, hey, this is our family, this is what we're doing, and I wanted that family aspect to be number one, and because that was the goal of the adventure.
Yeah, well, I think you hit the goal.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. There's something really beautiful about doing something for just yourself. And I think that's something that people can take away from this is it may not be 100-miler through the night for your kids, but like take care of yourself in order for you to be able to take care of your family. And I think that's the big one that hits for me. So in saying that, I mean, you and I last time I knew we could go for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots more things we're going to talk about now that we both didn't get into Cocodona. What's next?
Man.
But, yeah, well,
yeah, we need to tag them. Maybe they can give us some spots from the race directors or something. Man. But no, it'll be good. We'll do. I have no doubt that you and I will share some miles on a 200 miler at some point. So I'm looking forward to it. We definitely gotta make that happen, or maybe speed project or something. I think there's some things we could get into. Looking forward to definitely linking up.
Whole dad team for speed project.
That that could be the idea. Like that.
We're gonna put that one then like in the piggy bank.
I like that.
There's a lot of value in that one. So I want to end with a question that you heard the last time. But it's going to be probably a different answer than it was last time. Where is your mind after this conversation?
Honestly, I think it grounded. It made me even more excited for this next season. Like, it's cool to hear from you of like your kids are older, and you're getting into some fun stuff with them, and so it excites me for what's to come with our family, and makes me even more like confirmed of like this is. I'm doing what I feel called to do, and that's raise a family and to follow this passion along the way. But like just like you said, I want this to be supplemental to my life and this journey, and excited for what's to come with raising young kids and not sleeping and developing a process instead of training towards the next thing. So excited. But I definitely appreciate your time, man. You have some fantastic insight into things, and I definitely appreciate coming on to the podcast today.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Steven. And where can everybody find you? The information, and we'll make sure we tag everything in our show notes, but just let people know where they can find you.
For sure. I primarily do Instagram. I've got a bunch of people trying to get me to do TikTok, but I feel like I'm not probably going to get into that game. But Instagram is ultrafine.running. If you also look up Steven Huffine, you'll find me there as well. I have Facebook, but I don't post too much on Facebook. So primarily Instagram, and then YouTube. I do a lot of joint ventures with my buddy. His name's Cole Carr. He does all my documentaries so far, and so he was excited to go to Cocodona. We were hoping that was going to work out, but we'll get into something there as well at some point. But yeah, Instagram, Ultrafine Running, or you can look up Steven Huffine, either one. But would appreciate you following along if you'd like.
Amazing. Thanks, Steven. And on behalf of Jason, who wasn't able to be here today, I know he would have loved to have been a part of this conversation. I am secretly glad we got to dad out a little bit, because
for sure it was great.
It's always fun being able to talk to somebody that is doing something similar that you are doing, trying to build the family and have kids in the mix as well too at the same time. So for sure. In saying that, thank you so much for joining us. Immense amount of gratitude for you being able to come back on again, even though we lost the first one. I promise.
No worries at all.
Immediately as soon as we're off this podcast.
Yeah.
I look forward to future conversations with you.
Appreciate it, Evan.
Well, everybody, that was an incredible episode with Steven Huffine, and we look forward to having you listen to our future episodes. For now, if you could please rate, subscribe, review, as well as comment on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We'd greatly appreciate it. And until next time, keep going the distance and breaking the silence together.